Hello everyone. I was debating making this video last night as I was in the bathtub after having a bit of an information crash. I just had a very overstimulating day yesterday, and the rest of my family did too. I got a lot of calls from friends last night. I think that something happened yesterday that really just sort of pushed this wave that we already felt coming deeper, further. I think that it's also a matter of the phases that we've gone through at this point. I think, in the beginning, no one really knows what to do. We're hoping to be directed and guided by the people who are giving us the information. Then we learn that there's only so much information we can receive from these people, and that a lot of it we really need to do ourselves or communicate with herbalists, any medical professionals that we really value their opinion, and kind of come together as a community to make sense of all of this. And I think there's another phase that some people go through where it's so largely intense, and it affects them so much that, or the people around them maybe, it has to be a laughing matter for them to process, and that is extremely hurtful for some. However, there's many sides that go into this. I think outside of where I live in Tennessee, just outside of Nashville as my major city, people are kind of maybe only dealing with this one large crisis, and seeing the way so many people are reacting and all of the other issues that it's bringing on, with hand sanitizer and toilet paper and all these things. And it's been a little different here. We had some substantial damage done by the tornado, putting a lot of people out of jobs, and now with the crisis of the coronavirus, people are unable to get reemployed after losing their jobs to the tornado because nobody's going out and nobody's hiring for that reason, and the jobs that they might be able to get in restaurants, are then subjecting themselves to the virus. So I'm feeling extremely thankful for the lifestyle that we have and the work that I do, and being able to employ people and allow them to work from home. And that's something that I really hope to expand in the future. The biggest thing that I wanted to talk about today in this video is not so much what's the virus, what can we do. I am gonna get there. But the biggest things that I wanted to talk about are some really teeny little changes in your lifestyle, or just in your life period, that might make you feel a little calmer moving forward. And right now, during all of this, some things you can do to provide yourself, your family, your community with some feelings of support and assurance, and just some little things that you definitely won't regret doing in your everyday life that might prepare you for any similar situation in the future. I think it's pretty apparent, no matter what your views are in the world, that there are some major cracks in society and some pretty nerve-wracking things that could happen at any moment. So while I was taking a bath last night, really feeling out all of the emotions that had just sort of come crashing in from the past month, really, I was trying to really count my blessings and think about all the things that we can do and things that feel good to remember right now. And so I made a little list last night of things that I wanted to share. There might be a few times in this video where I'm directly speaking to people that are on my Patreon, because there's quite a few recipes we've gone over this month that can really be used right now. And that said, I'm really not trying to sell anything in this video, but our Patreon, our lowest tier level is $3, and there's quite a bit of information available at that level. So if any of these things interest you, just keep that in mind. So on my little list here, the first thing that I was thinking about, and again, these are not all going to be directed at the virus, because this might not be the kind of situation where we're having to worry about things like utilities and clean water and, big industry things that are not going to stop easily. But just things that make me feel comfortable that could make you feel comfortable in similar future situations. And one thing that brings me a lot of assurance every day while making my herbal preparations to share with you all, while cooking, while just simply delivering water into my body, I am very thankful for my water filter. And we have a portable Berkey filter, which is available. The portable one is a BPA free plastic, but you can get the stainless steel ones. The portable one has been really nice for us because we walk down to the springs on our property and fill it up with spring water, which, number one, if you are local to me, I would be happy to offer up my spring to anyone in need of water. If you do not have a water filter and you're unable to purchase one right now, something that might be good to have on hand is purification tablets. So if you did need to find the nearest fresh water that you could grab, having something like the purification tablets or a Life Straw could really come in handy. I'm pretty sure they make the Life Straw water bottles too for around $25. I believe our portable Berkey water filter was over $100, under $200. And some of the nice big stainless steel ones are, I think, above $300. So the portable one is also a much more cost-effective one. Another thing I was feeling really grateful for is the amount of food that we have, actually without even having much of a food garden, that does not really require refrigeration and that we're able to make without keeping fresh things around. And the biggest two that I want to mention, because they have so many other benefits for the body, is kefir and sourdough. So buying a giant 50-pound bag of flour is something that we do on the regular anyways, because Francesco loves to bake fresh bread. But it's something that people are considering right now during all of this, and it's not a bad thing to consider. You can make a lot of things out of flour. You can also make a lot of things out of sourdough starters. For example, bread, pancakes, waffles, crackers, lots of different ways to give your body sustenance. Also, having like a nice sourdough starter is providing you with a level of fermentation, which is just incredible for the body. Same with kefir. We're getting a lot of probiotics from kefir. If you are using coconut milk, which is what we primarily use for kefir, we're keeping a ton of canned coconut milk in our house all the time. So that's a way that we would have like this delicious, probiotic rich, flavorful thing in our household that doesn't have to be refrigerated. Of course, it's nice to have it refrigerated, but you don't have to. And so that's a pretty reassuring thing. I want to talk about broth, and I know a lot of people are talking about broth, but this is just one that cannot be missed. And of course, if you are vegan, vegetarian, you don't have to make a bone broth. You don't have to make a meat-based broth, but I still think that broth is vital to you, because having something that you can reach for easily, that's going to nourish your body and also really like saturate your nervous system and calm you down in times where you're starting to feel a little bit stressed about food and taking care of yourself. So I will be talking a little bit more about beef and bone broth, but keep that in mind if you are a non-meat eater. Something like the broth that we make and sell, the mushroom broth, I'm forgetting its name right now, but it's got a lot of nettle in it, it's got oregano in it, it's got a little bit of alfalfa and oat straw, it's got garlic, onions, and a ton of mushrooms, oysters, black trumpet, shiitake. You can really throw any kind of dried mushrooms in there, but making that broth is one of my favorite things. It becomes the base for a lot of meals. We throw it into our bone and beef broths. And sometimes I simply just sip on it like tea when I'm really wanting something warm and nourishing for the body. And so on that note, some things that we can really do to keep calm are really quite simple, and they're not things that we have to feel crazy about rushing outside in public to buy. I'm seeing so many things persuading people to go out and buy your hand sanitizer, your toilet paper before it's gone, bread, milk, perishables, non-perishables, masks, all these things. That is not what we need to do right now. Another interesting thing about that is that you're going out into public to have to do that. So I think the biggest message right now, not to trail off too much here, is coming together with your neighbors, your friends, your family, your community, whoever that may be, online or in person, to share resources is one of the absolute most important things you could possibly do right now, for so many reasons. But for one, if you're, you know, if you're just working with your direct community, you hopefully care enough about each other that if you have been out in public or traveling or sick, you're going to be like, hey, you may not want to meet up with me right now. I might have subjected myself to this and I don't want to give it to you. But also, it's allowing you to hopefully not have to go out in public as much, not have to buy things as much. Also, I just have this vision when I think about all this, where taking the resources that I do have and making as much out of it as I possibly can by using smaller bottles, to make sure that rather than allowing people to buy like 15 of one of my items, I'm trying to get one or maybe two to as many people as need this as possible. Because here's the biggest thing right now. I've seen a couple people post a meme that has really put a bad taste in my mouth, which was something along the lines of, here we go, a bunch of herbalists are gonna try to make money off this situation. I don't think that's how we should be looking at this. In fact, at no point was that my thought process. What happened to me was I was up in my office thinking about all the herbs that would be wonderful for this virus, reading articles from all the beautiful herbalists and people that are compiling information to share right now, and realizing I have every single one of these herbs. Not only do I have every single one of these herbs dried and on hand, I have them tinctured and ready to go. So I felt an immense responsibility to share that with as many people as I possibly could, and I think that's what our jobs are as herbalists, as people who work with plants and keep plant medicine. This right here is exactly what we were made for, exactly when we're being called to help people. So my response was, I have so many of these things. How can I get these things to all the people that need them? How can I get these things to all the people who are feeling weary and nervous about themselves or their loved ones? And so that's what I'm gonna do. And, I've thought a lot about how I can make it as accessible as possible. I always have a disclaimer on my website that if you cannot afford something, please let me know, and I will always make it happen for you. But I do think I am considering with this miniature release of things to help people be better prepared for the virus, with hand sanitizer and a few protocols I'm going to go over in this video, or maybe a second one. I just lost my thought because it sounds like there's a car coming up the driveway. But I think I'm going to try to do sliding scale, where there's maybe 2-3 price points, and I'm just asking from the bottom of my heart that if you can afford them at full price, you do so to make room for the people who cannot, to be able to have access to them. And if these were all herbs that I was foraging myself, this is absolutely a time that I would be giving them away. But one of the herbs that I have spent the most money on, a couple actually, being the Baikal skullcap root, Chinese skullcap root. It's pretty pricey, especially when found fresh, and as most of you know, I really like to primarily work with fresh or freshly dried herbs, and also propolis. So we'll get into this more, but that is my main reason for having to charge some cost. However, these items should still be cheaper than most of my other items that are regularly for sale. So not to, I'm going to reel it back in now. Another cool thing about bone broth is that you get so many byproducts of bone broth. And if you're on my Patreon, we have talked about this a lot. One of the most incredible feelings that I get when providing for my family is when I buy a bag of bones. Then I come home and I turn this $5 giant bag of bones into several quarts of tallow for skincare, for feeding ourselves. I've got bones that I then dehydrate for the dogs, which makes them so happy, but is also just incredible for them. We've got tons of gelatin-rich broth that we can make meals from, we can freeze and sip on and add things to. It's incredible how much you get from bone-in meats, or simply making bone broth. And tallow is something else I've gone over a lot on Patreon because it just feels really good to have something that's very self-preserved. You're not having to use too many utilities to make it, to keep it. You know that you can pull from it when you need it and not have to worry about anything. And tallow is just one of those incredible self-preserved products that lasts up to 2 years. People typically say within 1 year is best. And honestly, people don't realize how quick vegetable oils go rancid, but olive oil and avocado are higher in fat. They're going to last a little bit longer, but a lot of those other oils go rancid within 6 months, sometimes even less depending on how long they've been on a shelf. Olive oil is actually a really good oil to use right now because we know that the olive vine, the olive leaves, everything about the olive has some antiviral properties. So if you are a non-meat consumer, consider using olive oil primarily right now. Another thing that we've gone over a lot on Patreon, and I've gone over it on here too. In fact, you can pull up a highlight on my Instagram page about making maple syrup and tapping sugar maples. This is an incredible resource right now too, and I probably should have mentioned this after the water filter. If you do not have access to fresh water, and who knows, maybe our water system gets contaminated, who knows what, look for the nearest sugar maple tree. Odds are you have them. Sugar maples are actually even more prevalent in the Northeast, and it's said that we can't make maple syrup down here because we don't have quite as many of them or weather permitting, and that's not true. So I find them all over the East Coast. I know people in the Midwest and the West Coast, you probably, if you don't have sugar maples, have hickories and some other trees that can be tapped for a very vitamin, mineral, and electrolyte-rich water that comes out of the trees sterilized, which is freaking crazy. So if you have a sugar maple and you've been considering maple syrup and maybe it was a little too intimidating, now is the time to go and tap that maple, because even if you're not going to make syrup from it, collecting gallons of water from that for your family is a really good idea. Now that said, this water will mold if it is left out too long because it has sugar in it. So if you are tapping sugar maples, this is one that will need to be refrigerated. I have actually heard of certain practices that allow you to pull it straight from the tree, cap it instantly, and then it is sanitized, sterilized. I haven't looked too much into that because we're typically making syrup or some sort of herbal preparation where we're decocting it enough to not have to worry about contamination. Just some random little things I'm going to just breeze through real quick that just make me feel confident in times like this is having a wood pile. There are so many other reasons besides warmth that you want to have a wood pile, and so many things that it can do for you. Everything from making soap, to cooking, to heating things, to so many things. Right now feels like a pretty good time to have livestock. If you've been considering getting chickens, being able to have fresh eggs every day that are being made in your backyard so you're not having to worry about going out in public to get them or where they're coming from. If you've been considering getting a dairy goat, right now could be a good time to do that as well. Let's see. Buy local raw honey. Honey, do it, okay? Just go do it. Support your local bee farmers. Support something that's going to support you back. Honey is just the bomb. There's so many incredible things we can do with honey for our immune systems and to keep ourselves well, especially kiddos, especially preserving things. Honey is an incredible self-preserver. It's wonderful for syrups. It's really wonderful for all kinds of herbal preparations that you want to make right now, which, going on 20 minutes here, I have decided I'm going to make a separate video for herbal preparations to fight the virus and protect your family. Another thing I'm feeling really good about right now is being a part of a co-op. And out here where I live, a really awesome herbalist and homesteader has set us all up with 2 co-op organizations. One is called Azure Standard, Azure, and one is Star West Botanicals. And the cool thing about these is that they deliver on 18-wheelers. You don't have to pay shipping. You're not worrying about, having your things flighted in all the time. You order in bulk, so we get all of our goat and chicken feed from there. We order giant bulk bags of flour. You can order food, vitamins, herbs, anything from there. So if you don't have one in your area, which check first. Honestly, Facebook is a good place to check for these groups, but you can also log on to Azure and Star West and see if there's a local pickup in your area. Now that I've said Star West so many times, I think I'm saying the wrong herbal organization. I'll remember in a second. But just look up different co-ops. I'm sure there's more than just those 2. And if you don't already have one in your area, maybe make a little Facebook page, see if there's interest. I'm pretty sure the websites also help you collect that data too. And those are just incredible. I ordered goat feed earlier this month that I'm picking up in I think a couple Wednesdays from now. And last night I added a 50-pound bag of flour, some masa, and a few other things that we needed anyways, that feel really good to have right now. And I think that's the most important thing to say at this point is even if you are keeping really calm, which you should be, you're not super worried, it's not like you should go out and buy a bunch of things like hand sanitizer and toilet paper and all these weird things that if all this goes away tomorrow, you just have a crap ton of these things that are going to take you years to use, not to mention all the people that you took them away from and contributed to the prices going up. So just remember that. Try to only buy things you're going to use anyways. If you and your family go through a lot of flour and cornmeal like we do, maybe double up. So yeah, last little tidbit there. I'm going to switch over now to the supplement video. This part went a lot longer than I expected, so thank you so much for keeping up here. And I hope this has been of any kind of help.